Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principles self-government. And today I'm taking a question. This question says, how to teach autism child at home. I'm excited about this because I have raised autistic children and I've done homeschool. In this video, we're going to talk about how to structure your homeschool for an autistic child to really thrive, and we're going to talk about key skills that will make the learning in your home much easier if you learn them. I never planned on being a homeschooler, but it was something that I actually came into because I was doing therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens for many years. Some of them were actually on the spectrum. And I had my own children at the same time that I was, getting ready to go to school. And suddenly it hit me, I could teach them at home. I could have more time with them at home. We could have the light bulbs happen in our living room and family room. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. But there is something I will tell you about teaching a child at home, and that is there are many philosophies out there on how to do it, on what is best. I can say what worked really well for me, and that was to learn how people learn. That was one of the most important things that I could learn. I have multiple videos on this channel related to how to homeschool, so I'm not going to go into all that detail here on this video, but please go and look at some of those other videos about homeschooling so that you can see how we did it at our house and what it looked like. So let's talk about homeschooling. When you are a homeschooler, you're a little bit more free sometimes structurally in your family than people would be at the public school. So at the public school, it's like from this time to this time, we're going to do this. From this time to this time, we're going to do this. We're going to get this much done on this lesson. And they move them through, they matriculate them. And if the child doesn't do whatever they're supposed to at the certain time, oh well, they move on, right? And that's just how it happens. When you're at home, you can kind of dive deep into things, and you can spend a lot of time doing cooking projects or chores together. You can go on trips together as a family and call it school. There's a lot of different things that you can do which are not as structured. And this is an amazing part of homeschooling. I honestly loved it. But when we're talking about autistic children, structure is important. They thrive with structure. In fact, all children need to have a certain amount of structure to thrive, but autistic children need a little bit more structure. So this means you are going to want to have time blocks in your day. So when I did homeschooling, I focused less on getting through the content and more on just doing the time blocks. So schedule your time, not your content. So what does this mean? This means that instead of saying we're going to get through the entire math lesson today, which could increase stress, especially if it's a difficult lesson, I would say we're going to do 20 minutes of math today. That means if we only did one problem or 5 problems in the 20 minutes of math, that's okay. We call it math time and it's done. Did you know that the second half of every math book is the same as the first half of the next book that's going to come for the next year? They don't have to get through every single math book every year. In our family, we skipped in Saxon books every other book because we didn't ever want to do repeats. The reason why they have so much repeat is because most people have a summer where they don't do any math. And so then they have to repeat it. And because many people pass by topics without actually mastering them, they just did the seat time, and the teachers know they're going to need a lot of repetition. But what if you just put in a certain amount of time, you did it year round, you created that time frame as part of your culture? That would actually bring a lot of peace to your autistic child. They don't know what to do if their schedule falls apart. So make sure that if you want to have a special day for field trips or something like that, that you schedule it in, that it's planned, that it's part of the structure. Then start your day at a certain time, end it at a certain time, and make sure that whatever you're studying on those days has certain time blocks. If you can write it out, all the better for your autistic child. It could be that an autistic child is working on a project, they get frustrated that they're not done with the project yet when it's time to move on to something else. That can be an issue. This is where homeschooling really is a benefit for that particular child, because now you can say, well, how about we adjust our schedule a little bit and we'll work on this a lot more tomorrow, or we'll work on it right now and we'll move our science day to tomorrow. You can make those adjustments to help the child go as deep as they want to in some of the areas that they really care about. Now, sometimes autistic children are more anxious and they sometimes obsess over certain things. So because of that, you might want to also be careful that you structure things in a way that you are trying to conquer a little bit of that obsession. If you are scheduling those time blocks, that should make it so that they can't obsess over the time as much because they already have a plan. Make sure you have time to read and discuss with your autistic child, even though that part might be sometimes the most difficult. It depends on where they're at on the spectrum, how verbal they are, and how well they're able to syntopically put pieces of information together. But reading and discussing out loud, hearing what they're learning, and sharing new concepts and ideas through out loud reading is actually one of the most powerful things you can do for your homeschool, no matter if someone is autistic or not. So let's talk about some skills that will help your homeschool be effective. Now, this is for your autistic and non-autistic children because everyone needs skills for communication, for problem solving, just to help the whole family culture run more smoothly. The 4 basic skills of self-government, which I talk about all over this channel, which are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately, are a perfect place to start in your homeschool. In fact, I speak at some of the world's largest homeschool conferences as one of their keynote or headliner speakers about homeschooling, and I always say to people, number 1, learn how people learn. Number 2, teach your children the skills and principles that they need of self-government. That is a first step because all of the other teaching will be easier if your children know how to follow instructions, accept no answers and criticism, accept consequences when you need to correct things because they're not going right, and then disagree appropriately if they have to tell you something that you didn't understand. That way they have a skill where they can explain it to you respectfully and get the understanding that they actually deserve. When you teach your children the 4 basic skills for success and for self-government, don't just stop there. Also teach them all of the skills that you will be using to teach them and correct them in your homeschool and just daily life. If there's one thing about homeschool, it's that it is a culture, it's a way of living. It's not just something that you do for a certain period of time. I know I've been talking about time blocks. That's really important so that you get everything done in the day and so that you don't kill the learning. But homeschool is really about how the family is living. We went all year round with our homeschool. You don't have to, but that was something that we chose to do as a family so that we wouldn't have to review and because we liked the structure of it. But we also knew that everything we were doing, whether it was making dinner as a family or whether we were going on a walk together and looking at nature, those all were things that counted as a homeschool experience. All of the skills of teaching self-government are actually good for autistic children because they're so very predictable. So if you take the time to teach your children the skills of self-government before you even start developing the full structure of your homeschool and getting into a lot of the academic things that you're wanting to discuss as a family, you'll actually make your life and their life much easier. There's a lot more information that I could teach you related to the skills and principles of self-government, but I highly recommend that in order to find out more about those and to maybe even learn how to handle the meltdowns, help somebody with self-regulation, your own calmness, that you go to teachingselfgovernment.com, look for the TSG parenting course. That's going to give you the full training that you'll need for self-government success.